Hello YouTube and welcome back to the Not Even French YouTube channel, and today we are doing another French language video where I am dissecting an element of the French language that I like to explore, and today we are talking about sexism in the French language. So we all know that as human beings we are very linguistic creatures, and our language informs our view of the world. And there are some who argue that the French language is inherently sexist, or at least very, very macho. So I wanted to talk through in today's videos some instances where you may see a little bit of sexism in the French language, and also go through some very sexist phrases that I've heard in the workplace and elsewhere. Obviously not to celebrate them, but so if you hear them, you can cut them down. Now, just before I jump into this juicy video, I do have a message from my wonderful partners over at Lingoda, which is the Lingoda sprint is opening up enrollment for the final sprint of the year. And if you don't know about the sprint already, essentially it's a language learning challenge where you learn the language of your choice, you go hardcore for 3 months, and you have the opportunity to get your cash back. Okay, so 2 words come to mind: progress, fast progress, and cash back. So the whole concept is around challenging yourself, building those habits, going hard, and then at the finish line, depending on the sprint. I'm filming a video. And then at the finish line, depending on the sprint you choose, you can get either a 50% or 100% cash back. So essentially how it works is that you have until October 15th to sign up, and the sprint course will start on October 31st. You can do either the super sprint, which is 30 classes per month for 3 months and get up to a 100% cash back, or the sprint, which is 15 classes per month for 3 months and you can get up to a 50% cash back. In terms of languages you can learn, you've got English, Business English, German, Spanish, and French. And both plans do require a €49 deposit, which is included in the cashback. Don't worry, I've got a discount code for you. Lingoda is a world-leading online language school. It was founded in Germany, so they've really got that German stamp of quality, and I use them myself to up-level my French from level B1 all the way to C1. And I really loved learning with Lingoda because it's really flexible. You connect with the native professors anytime, anywhere, on your lunch break, morning, night, whatever suits you. Your lesson will last for 60 minutes. And there are usually only 2 to 3 other students in the class, maximum 5. They've actually had over 70,000 students worldwide. Go and check out their Instagram, read their FAQs, get to know them a little bit more. Loads of my subscribers have joined their language learning challenges and been really, really happy with them as well. So again, if you want to join the very, very last sprint promotion of 2021, then absolutely click the link in my description box down below. You know what to do. And don't forget to use the code to get €20 off that deposit for you. So before I share some of the most sexist French sayings that I have heard, let's talk a little bit about some of the signals that the French language is a little bit sexist. And the first thing that I want to touch on are the job titles. So for the longest time, most job titles only had a masculine form. Even though we learn some of these feminine forms of a job title, it's often just language that society has created. They're not necessarily official according to l'Académie Française, which is the body that looks over the rules regarding the French language. Fun fact, by the way, just this is a bit of a side note, but about l'Académie Française, super funny. So they rejected the word selfie, like to take a selfie, and the official French word is ego portrait. Ego portrait. I just find that hilarious. Okay, so where was I? So for example, l'Académie Française only dropped its insistence of calling female presidents Madame le Président a few years ago. And Coco Chanel is referred to in French as le grand couturier. Again, masculine form. Obviously the argument here is that this language, with mostly having masculine job titles and job names, makes it a bit funny to hear the feminine version. And there's an argument that there's an inherent gender bias in there. And not only does it put women at a disadvantage, but it also flares up other gender-based inequalities as well. The second signal that the French language can be a little bit sexist at times is taking certain French nouns. And you'll realize that with these nouns, some of them are completely neutral or even positive in the masculine form, but not so much in the feminine form. I'm going to give you some examples. To say I'm full, you could say je suis plein in the masculine form. But if you're a female and you want to say je suis pleine, it actually is a bit derogatory, and it means it's talking about being pregnant if you're an animal, like a goat or something like that. So you can't really say that. You would have to say, non merci, j'en ai assez mangé. I've eaten enough. There are also a lot of sexualized words, like the word for cat, for example. So we have to call Bonbon, who's a female cat, le chat in French. Because if we say la chatte, it obviously has a sexualized connotation. It means pussy, and you just can't talk about a female cat really. Next up, a professional, un professionnel. The masculine form is a professional. But guess what? Une professionnelle means a prostitute. If we're talking about teachers at school, for example, un maître or un maître d'école, so a school teacher, is a male teacher. But if you say une maîtresse, it means a mistress, a lover. If you call a man un cochon, a pig in French, it means that he's dirty, maybe he doesn't wash often enough, maybe he eats grubbily, this kind of thing. So he's messy, he's a dirty person. Whereas une cochonne, if you're referring to a female pig, of course, it has sexual connotations, and it's more so around dirty thoughts and deeds and behaviors in, again, a sexualized way. Ironically, a blonde, un blond, is a clever man, but une blonde, guess what? Is a stupid woman. You might even hear someone say, tu es pas un peu blonde, toi? You know, you're not a bit stupid, using that female version of blonde. Then of course you have un homme facile, an easy man, an easy guy to get along with, and une femme facile. You can only imagine what that means, an easy woman in that kind of respect. So those are just a few examples of many, many out there. Now let's dive into some of the sayings or phrases that you may hear that are inherently sexist, and you've got to shut them down. Now, a recent study revealed that 49% of French women have been called sexist nicknames in the workplace. Ma petite, ma cocotte, ma puce, ma poupée. If any male manager or colleague calls you that, firstly, I think that's just straight up inappropriate, but if it makes you feel inappropriate, shut it down. That is not just a standard part of the French culture. It is not okay for men, especially like higher up in the hierarchy, to treat you like a little girl. Some other super sexist things you might hear in French include elle est pire qu'un homme. This is especially bad in the workplace when you have a female executive who's giving orders, being assertive, and just doing her thing to get the jobs done. Elle est pire qu'un homme. She's worse than a man. Another one is c'est quoi cette Barbie? Who is this Barbie? So c'est quoi cette Barbie qui vient d'arriver dans le service? Like, who's this Barbie who's just arrived in the service? Referring to someone, a bit of a bimbo, quote unquote, would be the equivalent, I guess. It can relate to being physically attractive or intellectually not all there, or that mix of both. Now, if you see a meeting with all women in the workplace, you might hear c'est une réunion Tupperware. It's a Tupperware meeting, referring to the fact that when women get together in groups, all they have to chat about is homewares and Tupperware and that kind of thing. They can't possibly be making massive strategic financial decisions or anything like that. C'est une réunion Tupperware. Now, we talked about the blonde thing before, but the study actually showed that 69% of women had heard elle fait sa blonde or ne fais pas ta blonde, which is pretty massive when you think about it. 59% had heard comments about them being on their period. For example, elle est de mauvaise humeur aujourd'hui, hein? Elle doit avoir ses règles. So she's in a bad mood today, she must be on her period. Another one you may hear in this domain is laisse tomber, elle doit avoir ses règles. Leave it alone, just let it go, she must have her period. Because you know how menstruation makes women really aggressive and incapable of decision making? Yeah. Another word that is used almost exclusively for females is hystérique, so hysterical, and it is often used to discredit a woman's opinion. And the problem, of course, with this kind of language is when a woman gets emotional or worked up, you know, defending her point, it only further proves the point when she's called names like that. even if she's just simply challenging the sexism and all of that. Another expression is elle sait pas faire grand chose à part se vernir les ongles, which is she doesn't know how to do much except paint her nails. To that I would say, oh, why thank you. Do you want me to teach you? Another expression is chercher la femme. And this is quite difficult to translate. It doesn't necessarily have a direct equivalent. It could kind of be related to like, go figure, or same problem as ever. But I've heard that when French native speakers use this phrase, it's usually quite targeted at women. So for example, if someone says, j'ai plus d'argent, I have no more money, someone might say, cherchez la femme, as in hint hint, your wife must have spent it all. The next word kind of mixes the word femme, woman, and omelette in spelling, but I don't think it's anything to do with omelettes, but it's femmelette, like small woman. And this is an insult used against men that they're not hard enough, right? They're not courageous enough. They're not brave enough. Femmelette, it's like little woman. It couldn't be anything worse, right? And in French, of course, you also have the classics that exist in English as well, like le sexe faible, the weaker sex, and avoir des cuits. So have the balls, you know, because having balls is a sign of bravery, courage, determination, whatever you want to call it, but they also have that as well. Next up, we have quite an interesting and quite a strange phrase really, which is la ménagère de moins de 50 ans, which literally means something like the housewife who's less than 50 years old. It refers to the same sort of concept as we have in English as a Karen, like a woman with nothing better to do kind of thing, then complain to the manager about something or whatever, like a Karen. But it's the association here that the female form, so it's a person who's running the household, and of course it's in the female form of less than 50 years old. I don't know why 50 years old was the cutoff, but that's what they've decided in the French language. Next up, we have a term that's inherently quite sexist. It exists in the domain more so of law, really, and we're talking about un bon père de famille. So it would mean a good father of the family, but it really references any person who is, for example, attentive, diligent, doing the right thing, or represents the kind of normal behavior that you would expect in a situation, like an individual of reference, let's say. But it's interesting, isn't it, that referring to people as a good father of the family just inherently in the language. I know I've mentioned this next one before in another video, but I think it's quite interesting because it is largely used for females only, and that is mal baisé. So badly F-U-C-K-E-D. And it does refer to a woman who's been particularly picky, annoying, over the top, that kind of thing. Basically implying that she's not been a very nice person because she's not getting what she needs at home. Next up, we have l'homme propose, la femme dispose. So this is a play on a saying that exists, which is l'homme propose et Dieu dispose, which is man suggests and God disposes or determines the final result. And so what this saying is trying to say is the man can suggest, but at the end of the day, the woman will do what she wants or will determine the final result. You also have a nice classic saying about female drivers, ho ho ho, which is femme au volant, mort au tournant. Which means if you have a female who's driving, taking the wheel, then you're going to be dead around the bend, like on the corner when you're driving the car, essentially. It's really bad. Another classic is tu sais cuisiner, tu es bonne à marier. If you know how to cook, you're ready to be married. Of course, just like in English, they have être un homme for man up, you know, sois un homme, be a man, you know, to man up and be strong. You may also hear something in the workplace like elle a dû coucher avec le patron. Promotion canapé, tu connais? Which is saying like, oh, she must have slept with the boss, like a couch promotion, you know? Another phrase I really don't like is fais pas ta pute. Like if a woman is overreacting or whatever, getting emotional or getting aggressive anyway, saying don't be your prostitute or whore, essentially. Fais pas ta pute. Another saying in this realm is elle est pas frileuse, which means, oh, she's obviously not getting cold when you're commenting on the length of a woman's skirt. So by saying, oh, she's not sensitive to the cold, you're sort of commenting on how short she wears her clothes. And another saying based on a woman's looks is maquillée comme une voiture volée. So made up like a stolen car. It's a bit of a pun here because to maquiller une voiture is to basically, you know, hide its imperfections, right? To cover up the flaws that it has. And so it's relating to that. So she's made up like a stolen car, meaning she's probably wearing too much makeup for the men's liking. So friends, I hope that you have enjoyed this foray into the French language from yet another angle. Promise me that if you hear language like this, sayings like this, call the people out, even if it's your friends, if it's your relatives, because you know what they say, jokes and language, you know, it does actually breed complacency and acceptance of the way we see the world. Would love to hear your thoughts and opinions down below, and otherwise thank you so much for watching, and I will see you here next week on the Not Even French YouTube channel. A bientôt!